I showed up at my parents' house and caught them yelling at my 6-year-old daughter, "Wash the dishes properly, you useless girl." I lost it. "You are good for nothing," my mother shrieked, her voice harsh. Meanwhile, my sister's girls were laughing, so I stopped their house payments, leading to the bank's auction. I'm Esteban, 34 years old, and my life centers entirely on Sofia, my daughter. I adopted her when she was barely 2, and from the instant I saw her, I knew she would be my entire world. Her large, expressive eyes, her modest laugh, and the way her tiny hand clasped my finger completely captivated me. It doesn't matter that she isn't biologically mine. To me, she is my daughter in every sense of the word. However, not everyone in my family shares this view. My parents, Romero and Cecilia, never truly embraced Sofia from the beginning. When I informed them of my decision to adopt her, their expressions soured. "Why not find a woman and have your own children?" my mother questioned, as if Sofia were a blunder, a mere whim. My father, more direct, blurted out, "She's not our blood, Esteban. It's not the same." Those words pierced me like blades, but I chose to disregard them. I imagined that with time, their feelings would change, that they would recognize the angel Sofia truly is. I was mistaken. Despite their disapproval, I always strived to maintain a decent connection with them, not for my sake, but because I believed families should remain unified. Moreover, my parents were in a precarious financial situation. A few years prior, both had lost their employment. My father's factory closed, and my mother, a secretary, never secured another consistent job. They sought my assistance, and as a dutiful son, I agreed. I began contributing to their mortgage for an old but spacious house where my sister Clara and I grew up. It wasn't a small sum, but I held a good position as an engineer in a construction firm, making it manageable. Each month, I transferred a significant amount to prevent them from losing their home. It was my way of supporting them, though I always sensed they didn't appreciate it sufficiently. Clara, my younger sister, has 2 daughters, Valeria and Camilla, aged 7 and 5. They are the darlings of my parents' home. Every time they visit, Romero and Cecilia lavish attention on them, purchasing toys, indulging them, and taking them to the park. I have no issue with this. On the contrary, I'm pleased my nieces are content. But I always noticed a difference in how Sofia was treated. When we brought all 3 girls to my parents' house, they barely acknowledged my daughter. Sometimes, they wouldn't even include her in games or activities. I overlooked it, thinking perhaps it was my imagination, that they didn't intend to slight her. I wanted to believe they were merely clumsy grandparents, not cruel ones. One day, I decided Sofia should spend more time with her cousins. I wanted them to grow up together, to cultivate a close relationship, much like the one Clara and I shared as children. Sofia is a sweet child, always smiling, always eager to make friends. I thought a day playing with Valeria and Camilla at my parents' house would be ideal for them to bond. Additionally, I had an important work meeting, so leaving Sofia with them seemed like a sensible plan. I instructed them to care for her, to let her play with her cousins, and I ensured they understood I would only be gone for a few hours. "Don't worry, Esteban," my mother said with a smile that, looking back, appears disingenuous. "She'll be fine here." That morning, I left Sofia at my parents' house. She carried her small pink backpack with a couple of toys and a wide smile. "I'm going to play with my cousins, Daddy," she told me, and I kissed her forehead, promising I'd return for her after work. I departed feeling at ease, trusting that everything would be well. How foolish I was. The day at the office was lengthy. The meeting extended beyond expectations, and by the time I finished, it was almost evening. I drove to my parents' house, eager to see Sofia and hear her tales of fun with her cousins. But upon my arrival, something felt wrong. The front door was ajar, and from outside, I could hear harsh, rough voices. One belonged to my mother, Cecilia, and she sounded furious. "Wash those dishes properly, you good-for-nothing girl." "Look, they're still dirty," she yelled. I froze. Who is she speaking to like that? I entered silently, and what I witnessed shattered my heart into 1,000 fragments. Sofia, My little 6-year-old Sophia stood on a wooden box in the kitchen, her hands deep in the soapy sink. Her tiny arms could barely reach the dishes, and her face was red with tears streaming down her cheeks. She was sobbing, attempting to clean a large plate she could barely hold. Meanwhile, my sister's daughters, Valeria and Camilla, mocked Sophia, while my parents shouted at her. They held toys in their hands, playing while my parents forced my little girl Sophia to do chores. "What's happening here?" I roared, storming into the kitchen. Sophia looked up, and upon seeing me, she rushed into my embrace, clinging tightly. Her hands were wet and trembling. "Daddy, I'm sorry. I don't know how to wash dishes well," she sobbed against my chest. I felt a fury I had never experienced before, as if something within me had fractured. "Why is Sophia washing dishes?" I demanded, looking at my parents, my voice quivering with rage. "Why do you have her here like a servant while Valeria and Camilla make fun of her?" My mother approached with that, "it's not a big deal" expression she always used when she wanted to rationalize something. "Esteban, calm down. We're just teaching her to be useful. It's good for her to learn from a young age. Don't be so dramatic." "Dramatic?" I echoed, almost disbelieving what I was hearing. "She's a 6-year-old girl. She should be playing with her cousins, not scrubbing dishes she can't even reach. And on top of that, you're yelling at her, calling her useless. What's wrong with you?" My father, who had been silent until then, spoke up. "Look, Esteban, it's not a big deal. We just asked her to help a little. Clara's girls don't have to do that because, well, they're our actual granddaughters." Those words were like a punch to the gut. "Actual," I said, my voice low but brimming with disdain. "So, Sophia isn't actual? Is that why you treat her like dirt, because she's adopted?" My mother attempted to smooth things over. "That's not it, Esteban. We just want her to be responsible. We're not treating her badly." But her words sounded hollow, false. Sophia was still clinging to me, trembling, and all I could think about was getting her out of there. "You don't love her," I stated, looking at both of them. "You've never loved her. You've always treated her differently. And now this? You have her washing dishes while you spoil Clara's daughters. What kind of grandparents do that?" My father raised his voice. "Don't cross the line, Esteban. This is our house, and here we do things our way. If you don't like it, take the girl and leave. Period." That was all I needed to hear. I took Sophia in my arms, grabbed her small backpack, and walked out of that house without looking back. As I walked to the car, I heard my mother shout, "Don't overreact, Esteban. Come back here." But I didn't return. I couldn't, not after what they had done to my daughter. On the way home, Sophia said little. She was quiet, her gaze lost out the window. I tried to talk to her, to ask her how she was, but she only responded with single words. "Daddy, why don't Grandma and Grandpa love me?" she asked at one point, and I swear I felt the world collapse around me. How do you explain to a 6-year-old girl that the people who should cherish her reject her for something as trivial as not sharing their blood? "They don't know what they're missing, sweetie," I said, trying to sound strong, though I was shattered inside. "You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I love you with all my heart. That's what truly matters." That night, after putting Sophia to bed, I sat in the living room with a beer in my hand, contemplating everything that had transpired. The anger wouldn't dissipate. I recalled all the instances my parents had made derogatory remarks about Sophia, all the times they had marginalized her while pampering Valeria and Camilla. I also remembered all the money I had spent on them, the mortgage payments, the bills, the favors. And then I made a choice. I wasn't going to keep assisting them, not after what they did to my daughter. If they couldn't love her as she deserved, they deserved nothing from me. So I contacted the bank and canceled the mortgage payments for their house, and also the monthly allowance I sent them to live comfortably. The following days were a struggle. I had to cheer up my daughter Sophia again, because what my parents had done was traumatizing for her. She mostly just drew and was quieter than usual. So my routine was to come home from work and bring her toys or anything that would make her feel better. On weekends, we would go to the park, and I'd buy her favorite ice cream, but nothing seemed to work. She remained quiet and sad. A few weeks after what happened at my parents' house, my phone began to vibrate on the kitchen table. I was preparing dinner for Sophia, who was playing with her crayons in the living room, humming a song she had learned at school. I looked at the screen. It was my father, Romero. I hesitated for a second before answering, but a part of me wanted to hear what he had to say. Perhaps, I thought, they would have the courage to apologize for what they did to my daughter. Esteban, his voice sounded strained, almost desperate. The bank sent us a letter. They say the mortgage payments are overdue. What happened? You always made them. There was a hint of accusation in his tone, as if I were obligated to keep propping up their world while they destroyed Sophia's. I remained silent for a moment, feeling the anger I had tried to subdue ignite again. Pay them yourselves, I replied with a coolness that surprised even me. I'm not giving you another cent. On the other end of the line, I heard my mother, Cecilia, let out a choked cry. Son, you can't do this to us, she exclaimed, clearly on speakerphone. It's our house, the house where you grew up. We don't have jobs, you know that. Please don't be so cruel. Her voice broke, but I felt no pity. Her tears sounded feigned, as if she were performing to manipulate me. Cruel? I repeated, gripping the phone so tightly I thought I might break it. Is it cruel to stop paying the mortgage on a house that isn't mine? Or is it cruel to yell at a 6-year-old girl that she's useless while you have her scrubbing dishes she can't even reach? Cruel is making her feel worthless while you spoil? Clara's daughters! Tell me, Mom, who's the cruel one here? There was a heavy silence. I could imagine them in their living room, staring at the phone, searching for words to defend themselves. Finally, my father spoke with that authoritative tone he used when he wanted to impose his will. Esteban, you're overreacting. We just asked her to help a little. It's not a big deal. She's a child. She has to learn to be useful. Useful? I almost shouted, but I lowered my voice so as not to alarm Sophia, who was still coloring in the living room. Sophia is not your servant. She's my daughter, and you humiliated her, made her cry, treated her as if she weren't part of the family just because she's adopted. Do you think I didn't notice how you ignored her, how you always sidelined her while showering Valeria and Camilla with toys? I'm not going to keep helping people who treat my daughter like dirt. That's not it, Esteban, my mother intervened, now with a pleading tone. We just wanted to teach her responsibility. We don't hate her. It's just that, well, it's not the same. Clara's girls are our blood granddaughters. It's different. Those words were like a blade. Different? I repeated, feeling a lump in my throat. For me, there's no difference. Sophia is my daughter, and I love her more than anything in this world. But for you, she'll never be enough, will she? She'll always be the adopted one, the one who doesn't count. Well, that's it. I don't want you near her ever again, and I'm not going to keep paying for you. Figure out your lives on your own. I ended the call before they could respond. My heart was pounding, and my hands were shaking. I blocked their numbers immediately because I knew they would try to call me again. Fill me with excuses, with empty please. But there was no turning back. They had crossed a boundary, and I wasn't willing to forgive them. Weeks passed, and my parents' silence was replaced by a call from my sister Clara. Her voice was filled with anger, almost trembling with indignation. Esteban, how could you? She began without a greeting. Dad and Mom were evicted from the house. The bank auctioned it off. They're on the street because of you. How could you do this to them? They're your parents. I sat on the sofa, looking at Sophia, who was building a tower of blocks on the rug. Her soft laughter gave me the strength not to give in to Clara's words. It's not my fault, I replied, calm but firm. They chose to treat my daughter as if she weren't part of the family. They humiliated her, Clara. They had her washing dishes while your daughters played with new toys. They yelled at her, made her cry. Do you want me to keep paying their mortgage? As if nothing happened. It's not my responsibility to support people who don't respect Sophia. Clara was quiet for a moment, but then she burst out, You're selfish. All over some silly thing. Mom and Dad have nowhere to go, Esteban. Don't you? Care. They're your parents, for God's sake. And all because Sophia washed a few dishes? You're overreacting. Overreacting? I said, feeling the anger surge again. Clara, it's not just that she washed dishes. It's that they treated her like a servant, like she was worthless. They yelled useless at her while your daughters were the princesses of the house. Do you know what Sophia asked me that night? Daddy, why don't Grandma and Grandpa love me? Can you imagine how I felt? No, Clara, I'm not overreacting. They crossed a line, and I'm not going to keep supporting those who hurt my daughter. But you can't leave them on the street, Clara insisted, now with a softer, almost pleading tone. They're parents. They don't have jobs. They have nothing. What are they going to do? If you're so worried about them, you help them, I cut in, leaving no room for negotiation. I've already done enough. For years, I paid their mortgage, their bills, everything, because they asked me to. But it's over. I'm not going to keep supporting people who don't respect my daughter. I ended the call, and although Clara tried to call me again, I didn't answer. I didn't want to keep arguing. My priority was Sophia, and no one, not even my family, was going to make me doubt that. It wasn't long before my parents appeared at my doorstep. It was a gray afternoon, the sky covered with clouds, threatening rain. Sophia was in the living room watching a cartoon movie, wrapped in a blanket, when the doorbell rang. I got up, expecting it to be the delivery guy with the pizza I had ordered. But when I opened the door, there they were, Romero and Cecilia. Their clothes were wrinkled, bags under their eyes, and an expression of defeat I had never seen on them. Esteban, please, my mother began, her voice trembling. We have nowhere to go. They took our house. The bank took it. Let us stay here, just for a little while, until we find something. My father, who had always been proud, barely looked at me. His hands trembled as he held a plastic bag with some of his belongings. Son, we didn't know you'd take it like this, he murmured. The thing with Sophia was a mistake. We didn't mean to hurt her. I looked towards the living room, where Sophia was still engrossed in her movie, oblivious to the scene. I remembered her tear-streaked face, her small hands struggling with those dishes, her sobs as she tried to please grandparents who never truly loved her. A mistake? I said, my voice low but filled with contempt. You humiliated her, made her feel worthless, yelled at her, treated her like a servant while you spoiled Clara's daughters. And now you come here asking for my help? No, you have no right to be near her. Leave. Esteban, please, my mother pleaded with tears in her eyes. We're your family. We can't be on the street. What are we going to do? You made it clear Sophia isn't part of your family, I replied, unyielding. And if she isn't, then neither am I. Seek help elsewhere, but not here. Not in the house where my daughter lives, the daughter you hurt without a second thought. I closed the door, ignoring my mother's shouts and my father's murmurs. My heart was pounding, and for a moment I felt a knot in my stomach. They were my parents, after all. But then I looked at Sophia, who smiled at me from the sofa, and I knew I had done the right thing. They had chosen their path, and I had chosen to protect my daughter. Days later, Sophia started talking more. She had been quieter since that day at my parents' house, and I was striving to fill her life with love, games, and happy moments, so she would forget the pain. One night, while I was reading her a bedtime story, she looked at me with those big, bright eyes and said, Daddy, I forgive Grandma and Grandpa. I don't want to be sad because of them. I was speechless. How is it possible for a 6-year-old girl to have such a generous heart? I hugged her tightly, tears in my eyes, promising her that I would never let anyone hurt her again. Her smile gradually returned, and every day I worked to bring back that sparkle in her eyes. She was my angel, and I would do anything to protect her. As for my parents, I never saw them again. I learned from Clara that they ended up living in a small rented room, but I felt no pity. They brought it on themselves, and although Sophia forgave them, I didn't. I never will.